at an extraordinarily turbulent time when we face huge challenges on so many fronts. It's a terrifying situation, which was summed up brilliantly by one of my favourite banners at a women's march on London. Too much to fit on one sign. I think this sums up the global situation brilliantly. Now, here are just a few of the challenges that could have been squeezed onto it. Climate change, obviously, and its dire political, economic and environmental consequences as parts of Africa face the worst famines in their history. The growing imbalance of wealth between rich and poor, old and young. The growing distrust of the political establishment, the rise of intolerance, prejudice, bigotry, Brexit and Donald Trump, and the crisis of social justice. Ever more terrifying terrorist and cyber attacks and killing sprees, and of course the deepening refugee crisis as tens of millions of people are forced to flee their homes and to struggle to rebuild their lives. And then there are accelerating advances in technology. Now, after a decade in which technologies which would once have seemed like science fiction movie props have become part of our daily lives, so much so that we take them completely for granted, we now need design to help us to identify constructive uses for a torrent of new advances that are about to have a similar impact on our lives, whether it's neuromorphic and quantum computing, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, artificial intelligence, and all the other innovations that we know for sure will be part of the near future, and to avoid their dangers. Identifying useful applications for seemingly inscrutable technologies was one of design's core roles in the industrial age, and it achieved great things in that guise, but it has now taken on a new urgency, given the power of the next wave of advances and their potential to wreak damage, hence the current paranoia and all the media scare stories about artificial intelligence. Now, design isn't a panacea for interpreting advances in technology or any of the other major problems that I've spoken about, but it can help us to address them intelligently, responsibly, sensitively, and constructively. And the new attitudinal designers, as you'll have seen from the exhibitions in the Biennale, are already grappling with these challenges and many more. And there are lots of examples of their work in design as an attitude. And design, of course, hasn't traditionally been seen as an obvious solution to dysfunctional social services, healthcare shortages, plastic pollution, or to seeking justice. Nor were independent designers expected to raise over $30 million to mount epic ecological adventures on the scale of the ocean cleanup, or doctors like Sarah Karam and Ifat Zafar to recognize that design could prove useful in their work, or social scientists like Hilary Cottam in hers. Even now, more people are likely to perceive design as a styling device, as something that gives us flashy trainers, blinged up cell phones and overpriced hoodies, as a reason why so much plastic trash is poisoning the oceans rather than a means of clearing it away. And if Laszlo Mohlinage's ambitious and eclectic vision of design is to be realized, those stereotypes have to be squashed. The only way that this will happen is if design, attitudinal or otherwise, proves its worth in this new terrain. Because why else would politicians, bureaucrats and NGOs consider it to be capable of helping the victims of war crimes to secure justice, or to develop more efficient global systems of managing waste? I believe fervently that design is one of the most powerful tools at our disposal to address such challenges, in collaboration with other disciplines, but only if it is deployed intelligently, sensitively, and with extreme care and precision. Otherwise, how can design win the public confidence and political support it needs to be empowered to play a more prominent and potent role in our lives? And this will only happen if there are fundamental changes in design practice. And I'm going to outline just 5 of them, One is interpreting design in its broadest strategic sense as a process of change management and a series of skills to be applied in different contexts to address the major problems I've talked about. This doesn't mean that design will forfeit and abandon its commercial role. As I said, industrial design may have caused a great deal of ecological damage, but it's also had huge achievements that have improved the lives of billions of people, and designers will continue to work in that context, but they'll have a wider choice of other roles to play too. Secondly, design must become more compassionate. In the industrial age and the modernist era, design tended to be defined by certainties, which made it plucky and optimistic and ambitious, but also prone to arrogance. Empathy is going to be absolutely essential to design in future. Design also needs to be generous and open in forging true collaborations with specialists from other disciplines and designers from other cultures, which it's been really wonderful going through the exhibitions here to see the Istanbul Tasarım Bienali really taking a lead in encouraging designers to do that. And critically, designers have got to see those collaborations as learning opportunities, rather than simply an opportunity to invade someone else's terrain and drum up exciting projects for themselves. Designers also need to do the same to the people who use design, will play an increasingly important role in the design process in future. For many designers, their futures will be defined by their ability to enable other people to intervene constructively in the design process rather than delivering a finished outcome. Critically, the design community must become more diverse and inclusive. If you believe in design, it stands to reason that society needs the best possible designers, and we're not going to get them if they continue to be mostly white and mostly male. Designers need to be drawn from every strata of society, every gender, every geography, every ethnicity, every interest groups. I very much hope that the design history books of the future don't continue to be filled with white cis males. Of course, they should be present, but so should many other people with different voices and different perspectives too. And finally, designers have to accept that as they and the projects they undertake become increasingly ambitious, the consequences of failure will escalate. Because just as every thoughtfully planned and executed attitudinal design project represents a step forward for all the other designers who want to work in that way, every sloppily or lazily designed flop is a massive setback. Now, the ocean cleanup may well prove to be an important test case now that it's live in the Pacific. If it fails, it will be considerably harder not only for Boyan Slat, its founder, but other digitally empowered design activists to secure financial and political backing in future. But if the ocean cleanup succeeds in completing all or even part of what its website confidently describes as the largest cleanup in history, then the credibility of all those other projects will benefit, and other designers will find it much, much easier to raise money and secure support for similar projects in future.